almost got it. I'll keep reaching for it. What are you doing? Chill!
Welcome back to Talking Serpents. Today we're going to talk about a very important and very often subject in the reptile community, especially if you're a beginner snake owner, is why my ball python might not be eating. Okay, so this was my first snake. I got him about 8 or 9 years ago. His name is Mr. Slithers, which is kind of a funny name. We were actually going to pick him up, and my girlfriend at the time, which is definitely not my wife, what are you gonna name him? And I was like, I don't know, it was like Mr. Slithers, and like it was so stupid that it just stuck. So it's been Mr. Slithers ever since, and he's got a bunch of nicknames. But anyways, so he fed nearly perfectly for about 1.5 years to 2 years old. And then he became an adult-sized snake for a ball python. And then all of a sudden he had feeding issues. I had not really changed anything dramatically. And that's pretty much what this whole video is going to be talking about. All the research that I had done at that time, and I've personally tried anything that was able to help me with getting snakes to feed, especially ball pythons. That's what this video is about. This is going out to the community, and I really hope I'm able to help lots of people with this, because I've done lots of research talking to many people online, personally, and there's a lot of biased information out there, stuff that doesn't necessarily even help. So hopefully this will save you lots and lots of time, all the time that I had sacrificed years ago. So this one goes to the community. Hope I help. Okay, so one of the reasons why your ball python might not be eating is because it's breeding season. Breeding season just happens to be winter season, and this is usually between December and March. That just happened to be the same time that this guy stopped feeding for me, which is I think early December. And this is going to be determined by if your snake is sexually mature or not. Obviously, your baby ball python shouldn't be going on a feeding strike during breeding season, because I don't know why they would need to do that instinctively. That wouldn't happen. So, do consider that it's just sexually mature. So if you have a male or female, obviously it'd be different because females are going to get larger than males. This will be determined by the snake's age, weight, and length. So do your own research, determine that on your own. The reason why your ball python might not be eating, because it's breeding season. It's not a might. I mean, this is figure he's full. He had just eaten, and a female comes along. He might just lose out on his opportunity because he was unable to, I guess, perform. And yeah, that's instinctively they don't want to eat because they're trying to stay just ready. So they refuse their food. You can, and I do this personally, trick your snake into not thinking it's wintertime, because obviously it's wintertime. Temperatures are going to decrease, whether that be inside your home of 3 degrees to 5 degrees. It could be even more than that depending on where you live. But what I do is I either do whatever it takes to maybe raise the outside ambient temperature in the room, or I could change the wattage bulb. If you run heat mats, you might want to run a little bit more heat. Whatever you have to do to sustain the proper ambient temperature for a ball python. Okay, the next reason of why your ball python might not be eating is it a new snake? Did you just buy it, or did you just put it in a new enclosure? sometimes when you get a new snake, they're stressed out with their new surroundings because they could have gone from a tub or from the store that you bought them from, and it's a completely new environment. So for them, they definitely become a little bit, for the most part, a little bit stressed in the beginning. So that's why I don't like to handle anything that I got that's new, or if I just introduce it into its new enclosure, the new surroundings might stress it out. So if you do get a new snake or switch it into enclosure, don't handle it for 1 week, at least 1 week. Give it time to adapt to their new surroundings. That way it becomes comfortable. Obviously, if your snake is comfortable with its surroundings, it's going to want to eat. No one really likes eating when they're uncomfortable, or some people don't. So during this 1 week, it doesn't matter how much you want to see it, touch it, you want to take pictures with it, you want to handle it. I know you just got it and you really, really want to see it and hang out with it, but you have to resist because this is for your animal. It's not all about you, and you need to do this in order to be successful with your reptile. Don't touch it. Don't feed it. Don't handle it for that week at least, because it needs to make sure it's adapted. It's de-stressed for that week. It's got used to its new hides, where the hot side, where the cold side, where the water pool's at. Everything that's on the outside of the enclosure is new to it, and it's obviously, most of the time, not all the time, it's going to be stressed. So do consider that. Just give it time. Okay, another reason why your ball python might not be eating is because your enclosure isn't set up properly. Mind you that ball pythons are almost always shy and timid. Not always, but most of the time. I mean, the reason why they call it a ball python, which is actually a nickname, when they're shy, they ball up. It's their natural defense mechanism. They try to put their head inside and they ball up. Mine may not do that. He's not too shy anymore because he's kind of an older snake. But when I got him as a baby, he definitely balled up because he was shy. They do require 2 hides. I like to have 2 identical hides because that way if they like one hide versus the other, they might favor it, because I put one on the hot side and one on the cold side. Let's open it. Right now he's on the cold side. Okay, so talking about hides, because that is the most important thing for a ball python, since they do like going on their hides. I definitely don't like the one size fits all for a hide. I did get several different sizes as Mr. Slithers was getting to his adult size. I like to go with something that's dark, something that nearly surrounds him, surrounds his body. If he's coiled up like this, and the enclosure is pretty much hugging the rest of his body, they like tight spaces and they like to feel secure that way. So that will make them feel secure. That will help for sure. So when we first started with snakes, we had glass terrariums or fish tanks with screen tops, I like to call them. These are problematic all over the place, obviously. If you have one, you know what I'm talking about. It's glass. It's transparent on the front, the back, the top, and snakes don't like that. They want to feel secure, especially a ball python because they're so timid. So what I did was I'd go to Petco or PetSmart. They both have them. They have like these nice, it's like a foresty type background that you can stick on the back of the enclosure. You use like a double-sided tape. I put it on one on the back and then one on the right and left side. And that way they're not able to see out of those sides of the enclosure. So there's 3 sides that you've now taken care of. So that helps a bit. And then I would take a towel and I'd put on top, and I had a heat lamp on top. So about 75 to 80% of the top of the screen top, I put the towel down, and I made sure nothing was contacting the heat bulb. I would probably give it like a couple inches around the heat bulb at least. And that way, your snake's not worried about an overhead predator, because out in obviously the wild there are overhead predators, and they don't want to feel insecure in that way. So, put the towel on top. And at the same time, it acts as your humidity is going to want to escape off the top anyway. So it's two birds, one stone. It's now not exposed to the top, and you have less humidity escaping out the top. So, then we'll go back inside the enclosure. So, since your ball pythons, most likely very timid, because they almost always are, I have lots of things that I fill with an enclosure. Some people just think you need a water bowl, one hide, and some newspaper. Not always, and I do like to spoil my snakes, but I definitely think that they're going to be quite a bit more secure feeling if they have more foliage in here. For example, his cave, his little hide, it's on the right. He's in there right now. And then I have this tree structure that's going around it, and then all this foliage. So he feels nice and secure. And then over here, I have his warm hide. And I obviously don't have it facing the heat because light comes off of there. And I tried to keep foliage in front of the enclosure. That way he doesn't feel like someone's watching him and he's going to be stressed out about that. And then I just I fill up the rest of the enclosure. Like I got a little, some trees on here with some fake plants. And that way he can hide in back of there. He can climb on it. Plenty of things for him to just fill up the space. And they definitely enjoy that, because snakes don't seem to like open spaces. So do keep that in mind. Okay, sometimes it is appropriate for a ball python to be put into a tub, like an enclosure tub. Most of them are like semi-transparent, and that way they can't see out, and just as long as it's appropriately sized. Some people put them in small tubs, and that's not cool. I've never personally put him in a tub, so I have put other snakes in a tub just for a short period of time, but since ball pythons are pretty they're timid and they're shy, that might be very appropriate for you. You can try it, but that's up to you. Okay, another reason why your ball python might not be eating is because it needs proper heat and humidity. Some people have issues with this, but I'm definitely going to clarify it for ball pythons. Okay, the reason why they need proper heat is to stimulate their appetite. If it's too cold, they won't be stimulated. So we'll take this enclosure as an example. I like to think of it as like three zones. You can split it into thirds, whatever you want. You have your hot side, the center or ambient temperature, and the cold side. The hot side is best to be around 90 degrees for a ball python. The ambient center, this is the overall, is I'm pretty sure about 83 to 85 degrees. Right now it's 84.4. And the cold side, no lower than 80 degrees. That would be best temperatures to keep your ball python at, to keep them, their appetite stimulated. So that would definitely help you. And then humidity. people may bypass that, but it is pretty important, obviously. For a ball python, proper humidity would be between 50 and 60% if they're not in shed. If they are in shed, you would want to bump it up, if you can, to 70% humidity. Alright, another reason why your snake might not be eating. Are you handling your snake too often? Some ball pythons don't like to be handled, and this can cause them stress, obviously. And if they're stressed, they're probably not going to want to eat. Let's take this for example. I will be feeding him probably tomorrow or the next day, so I can handle him today, but I won't be handling him the day I'm going to feed. Do not handle or even touch your snake the day you're going to feed. People don't seem to understand that. Sometimes it brings them out of their feeding response, or it stresses them out, so they don't eat. Some will, but most likely and often they don't eat. So don't touch them the day you're going to feed. Okay, another reason why your ball python might not be eating, and this is a pretty hot topic, feeding inside versus outside their enclosure or terrarium. Ball pythons are ambush predators. The definition of ambush is a surprise attack by lying in wait in a concealed position. Now let's give him the example of how he feeds. I'll know when he's ready to eat because he'll be in his cave, he'll be coiled up, and he'll be in an S formation, and he's waiting for something to go in front of the cave. Now your ball python might do a little something different, but they lie in wait, and they wait for something to go by, and then they grab it. So what I do when I feed him is I dangle a rat in front of the cave and kind of just move it around, and he'll immediately grab it because he's been waiting for it. He's an ambush predator. So use that to your advantage. When you take your snake or ball python out of its enclosure and you try to feed it in a specific feeding tub or box, obviously you've just taken your snake out of ambush position because now it has no idea of its new surroundings. There's nothing it can hide behind. There's no more element of surprise. You've just taken that. So don't do that. There will be a full video on this specific topic coming in the future. We will do a full detail as of why, the pros versus the cons, and you can then decide for yourself with all the facts and evidence. And as you can see from all of my animals, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll definitely see I don't have any cage aggressive snakes. I can all go in there and no one's just gonna bite me randomly. So yeah, I guess you'll see on the next video that we do make on this topic. So hopefully that helps. Alright, another reason why your ball python might not be eating is what you're offering as a prey item. Frozen thawed rodent or a live rodent. Take Mr. Slithers for example. The first 5 years of his life, he would only feed on live rodents. No matter how I offered it, he didn't seem to take it. Although, he did switch like a couple years ago, like 2-3 years ago. All of a sudden I had a small rat that I was at the time feeding to Slipknot, and I'm like, oh, let's see what happens. And I tried to feed it to him, and then he surprisingly took it, and ever since then he's been eating nothing but frozen thawed small rats. There's a good chance that your ball python, if it's eaten nothing but live, may never eat frozen thawed. Some will change and some won't. I guess I'll talk about how I feed a frozen thawed. Let's say I thaw out the rat. I'm going to offer him a small rat. I don't want him to see me because that's going to freak him out. Or it can freak him out because he might think I'm a predator. So I would dangle it, because usually it's in the hot hide, which happens to be right here. And the opening of the hide is right here. I would hold the rodent, and I would dangle it and kind of make it look like it's live in front of his cave, because that's where he's going to be ready to ambush. And if he can't see me, then he's not going to be stressed out about me. He's going to be just seeing a rodent, and that's prime for him. If you were going to feed live, it's very important to monitor a live feeding. Don't just drop it in there and walk away and come back, because if you do some research, and I've personally seen people leave rodents, rats and mice with their snakes, and they do have teeth and they will fight back against your snake, and unfortunately the aftermath can be kind of bad, unfortunately. So do monitor them, but I mean, when I mean monitor, I mean don't drop it in, just be like, oh, look at him, is he gonna eat? Like, obviously your big fat head's in the way and it's gonna think that you're a predator. You probably need to step away a little bit. I would probably back up, so it necessarily can't see you too well. You want to kind of stay out of the picture so that it doesn't think that you're coming in as a predator as well, because it's not going to want to eat if it thinks that something else is going to try to eat it. Also, if you have a screen top enclosure, don't hang over the top of the enclosure and try to watch it feed. The same concept, obviously, that would just intimidate them as well, because it would look like an overheaded predator. So don't do that. Alright, another reason why your ball python might not be eating is because you're not feeding at night. Ball pythons are nocturnal animals, and that's when they are awake and in their hunting mode. I always offer food at nighttime, because obviously that's when they're going to be more stimulated. Just picture if you were sleeping and you were in a deep sleep and all of a sudden I just kicked you out of bed and I was like, okay, eat. You might be a little reluctant, you know? There's a lot of people that don't even like eating in the morning, let alone just all of a sudden wake up like in the middle of the night and listen, like 30 seconds you need to like start eating. Like, that might not work. So definitely do it when your snake is supposed to eat, which would be at night. So you do need to make sure your snake is awake. That definitely helps. Alright, another reason why your ball python might not be eating is it could be sick. And this is definitely an important one, although I won't be going into too much detail because each sickness definitely goes in depth, and you definitely need to do your own research so you can understand it fully yourself. The common snake health problems would be respiratory infection, also known as RI, mouth rot, reptile mites, scale rot, and there are more. So you need to do your own research, and that way you know how to inspect your snake every time you look at it, and so on and so on. And you also need to know all the details about each health issue. So please do your own research. Alright, I really hope this video was able to benefit you. This video might not get your snake to eat tomorrow, but apply these steps and your snake should be eating consistently under proper care. So give your snake what it deserves, and you should be just fine. I really hope this was beneficial to the reptile community. This definitely goes out to the reptile community, to say the least. I've gotten all this knowledge throughout the years of keeping reptiles, and I definitely want to give back, because obviously this is definitely a hot topic in the reptile community, because I get so many comments or people talking about, oh, my ball python's not eating. This is very common, so hopefully this is able to help you out. So please subscribe, share this with someone that you think could benefit off this video, comment, follow us on Instagram at Talking Serpents, and strike that like button.